I never thought I'd be the kind of mother who overstays her welcome, but I also never thought my own daughter would look me dead in the eye, with her arms crossed and her new apartment door halfway shut, and say, "You're not welcome here. Let me go back." I think the betrayal always starts in the quiet, in the small things, the things you forgive the first time. The text messages she stops replying to, the phone calls she lets go to voicemail, the birthdays she misses with a half-hearted excuse. "Sorry, Mom, swamped at work." The thanks, with no exclamation point. I should have noticed it then, maybe. But when you're a mother, you learn to make excuses for your child. She's tired. She's young. She'll come around. I'm the one who signed the lease on her first apartment. May 1st, 2020. I still remember it. Rent was $750 a month for a cramped one-bedroom in a part of town I never liked. I thought it was too noisy. She thought it was vibrant. She was 23, just out of college. No job yet, just dreams, student debt, and some boy named Kyle who always seemed to leave dishes in her sink. I covered the deposit, $1,500. First and last month's rent, $1,500. Furnished it with my own hands. I gave her my second-best couch, a set of old Corelle dishes, and a Target gift card with $200 on it. She cried when I handed her the keys. "Thank you, Mom. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." She hugged me so tightly, I could feel her heart beating. Now I wonder if that was guilt, or just gratitude on borrowed time. 3 years, that's how long I paid that rent. $750 a month, 6 months, $27,000 total. I never called it a loan. I never made her sign anything. I just said, "I know you'll find your footing. Until then, I've got you." At first, she'd text me every month. "Rent's due, sorry. Can you?" Then it was just a Venmo request. Then nothing. I'd just see the notification from my bank. Transfer to Zelle, $750. Description: Anna. I didn't mind. Not really. I had my own modest pension, some savings from when her father was still alive, and I'd sold the house after he passed. Money wasn't endless, but I made it work. I'd take coupons to the grocery store. I stopped going out to eat. I sold my sewing machine, my jewelry, all so my daughter could breathe easy. I thought that was what love looked like. But love doesn't tell you to stand outside your daughter's door in the rain. It doesn't pretend not to hear the knock. That day, I had taken the train down, 2.5 hours, 2 transfers. I didn't tell her I was coming because I wanted it to be a surprise. She'd mentioned in a text weeks ago that she got promoted, new job title, better salary. I thought I'd come bring her a gift, just something small. A framed photo of us when she was 5, her hair full of sand, holding my hand at the beach. When I got to her building, I buzzed. No answer. I buzzed again and again. Finally, a man I didn't know opened the door behind me. "Going up to Anna's?" he asked. I nodded, smiling. "Yes, I'm her mother." He laughed a little. "Good luck," he muttered. Her hallway smelled like potpourri and takeout. I knocked. Silence. I knocked again. Louder this time. The door opened a crack. She looked tired, or annoyed, I couldn't tell. She had her hair pulled back in a bun and was wearing a silky robe I hadn't seen before. "Mom?" she said, as if I were a stranger. As in, "What are you doing here?" I smiled and held up the gift bag. "I wanted to surprise you. I brought a little something for your new promotion." She didn't smile. She didn't even open the door all the way. She glanced behind her, then back at me. "Mom, I wish you would have called first. I'm busy right now." Busy. I'd just spent $47 on the train tickets, another $25 on the gift bag. $27,000 over 3 years, and she was too busy to let me in. "I won't stay long," I said gently. "Just a cup of tea. I haven't seen you in months, Anna." She shook her head. "I really can't. I have people over and it's just not a good time." There was a pause, a silence so sharp I could feel it cutting into my stomach, and then she said it. "You're not welcome here." Just like that. No apology. No explanation. No regret. I stood there, drenched from the rain, holding a stupid little gift bag like a fool. I tried to smile. "Well, at least take the picture, darling." She took it reluctantly, mumbled, "Thanks," and shut the door. No hug. No tea. No, "I love you." I stood in that hallway for a long time. I don't remember how long. Long enough for the man from before to pass by again and give me a look, not of pity, but of knowing. And that's when something in me began to shift. Not anger. Not yet. But a rewiring. Something cold and precise. Because if I was no longer welcome in my daughter's home, then maybe she was no longer welcome in my wallet. But cutting her off wasn't the beginning of revenge. It was just the start of the truth unraveling and finding out exactly where my money had gone. You don't just cut off your child, not without bleeding somewhere inside. That night, after she shut the door in my face, I didn't take the train home. I sat in a cheap motel room 5 blocks away, under flickering yellow lights, staring at the ceiling. Room 204, 89 or 50,000 for the night. The sheets smelled like someone else's perfume. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. I just replayed her voice over and over in my mind. You're not welcome here. I thought of all the nights I stayed up late packing her school lunches, all the times I clipped coupons to afford her ballet lessons, all the times I skipped new shoes so she could go on field trips. And I thought about the money. 36 months, $750 each, $27,000. I started wondering, what exactly had I paid for? The next morning, I walked into a little cafe and ordered a coffee, $2.45. I sipped it slowly, my hands shaking. I hadn't brought much with me. Just a purse, my wallet, my phone. I still had her apartment address saved, but what I really needed was access, so I did what every good mother does when she's no longer treated like one. I got resourceful. Anna had never changed her email password. I had set it up for her when she was 15. Same one for everything. Her email, her Venmo, her delivery apps, even her online shopping. She used to say, "Ugh, Mom, you're so paranoid. Who's going to hack me?" That morning I logged in. I know it wasn't right, but when a child locks you out of her life after you gave up years of yours for her, you stop caring about right and wrong. You start caring about truth. The first thing I checked was her Venmo history. She'd requested $750 from me on the first of every month like clockwork, but the same day I sent it, she sent $400 to someone named Kyle T. The name sounded familiar, and then I remembered. Kyle, the dishes in the sink boy from 3 years ago, the one who always had an early-stage startup and no job. He was still around, and she was giving him more than half of her rent money every month? I scrolled back. There it was, 26 different $400 payments, some labeled rent share, others you owe me, and a few just heart emojis. Then I opened her email. Search term. Lease. Nothing current. Nothing from the last year. No updates. No renewals. No landlord communication. And then I saw it, buried in her archive folder. A lease termination notice, dated April 28, 2022, over a year ago. I felt the blood drain from my face. That apartment I thought I was paying rent for? She hadn't lived there for more than a year. I went back to her Venmo. After April 2022, the payments changed. $750 every month, still sent to her. But then $500 forwarded to LT Designs, another $300 to Erica S., $150 for Reiki healing, $290 for the shoot. And in between, lavish food orders, Ubers to salons, a $980 transaction labeled deposit, photo shoot venue. I felt sick. She hadn't just lied. She had taken my money and used it to fund some Instagram influencer fantasy life. I sat there in the cafe until my coffee was cold and my hands were numb. She never once said, "Mom, I'm not using the money for rent anymore." She never once offered to stop. She just let it keep coming, month after month. And I was the fool, sitting in a 1-bedroom apartment with broken heating and canned soup in the pantry, so she could get fake lashes and post Monday motivation reels on the beach. I didn't confront her right away. No, anger is easy. But if there's one thing you learn raising a child, it's this: punishment fades, consequences stick. I wanted her to feel it, to really understand the weight of what she'd done, so I started quietly pulling back. First, I blocked the monthly transfer on Zelle. She didn't notice. She was too used to the money just being there. Then I changed the password to my bank account, then her Venmo too. She'd left it connected to my backup email. One click, and she was locked out. By the 5th of the month, the texts started. "Hey, Mom, my rent didn't go through. Did the bank mess up? Mom? Hello? Hello? I have bills to pay?" I ignored her. 2 days passed. Then she called. I let it ring twice, then picked up. Calm, measured, like a woman who's already done her crying. "Hi, Anna," I said. "I see you finally remembered my number." Silence. Then, "What's going on? Why is everything shut down? My card declined at brunch." I almost laughed. I said, "Because I paid your rent for 3 years, and you used that money for avocado toast and fake eyelashes. That's what's going on." She went quiet. Then, suddenly, fury. "Why are you snooping in my accounts? That's private." I smiled. Even though she couldn't see me. "And so is my wallet," I said. "But you didn't seem to care about that, did you?" She tried to spin it, said the rent was handled differently now. Said I offered the money. Said I was being dramatic, but I didn't budge. And when she realized she wasn't getting a single dollar more, she did something that shocked even me. She blocked my number. That night, I sat in my cold apartment and looked at the photo I had brought her, the one she barely touched, and I realized something. She had taken my money, but worse, she had taken my love and treated it like a subscription service. Automatic, expected, disposable. And that's when I decided, if she thought she could erase me from her life that easily, then maybe it was time I erased her from my will. But removing her from my will wasn't the end, because what I discovered next about her new life would lead me to the ultimate humiliation and the perfect plan for quiet revenge. Erasing her name from my will should have hurt more than it did, but it didn't. It felt necessary, like pulling out a splinter that's been festering under your skin. Painful for a second, and then relief. I went down to my lawyer's office on a rainy Wednesday. Old Mr. Jennings, who handled the estate when my husband passed, he adjusted his glasses and looked at me gently when I said, "I want to remove my daughter as a beneficiary." He didn't ask why. Maybe he saw it on my face. We rewrote everything. The life insurance, the small amount of stocks still in my name, the condo, my last real asset. Instead of going to Anna, it would go to a women's shelter I'd volunteered with years ago. They always needed funding for emergency housing. I signed the papers with a steady hand. It felt like I was closing a book that had been mocking me on the shelf for too long, but I didn't burn the broguage completely. Not yet. I kept one thing, one final clause, hidden in the fine print. Anna would receive one single payout of $1 symbolic. A message. Not forgotten, dismissed. But even that small satisfaction was nothing compared to what came next, because betrayal always has layers, and I hadn't reached the bottom yet. It started with an Instagram story. No, I don't follow her anymore. I unfollowed her months before the visit, but her account was public. And sometimes, late at night, when the silence is too heavy, I check. Not out of love, out of curiosity. Or maybe just to remind myself who she's become. And there it was, a video from a rooftop party, string lights, champagne flutes, a backdrop that said, "Boss Babe Brunch." There she was in the center. Anna wearing a satin dress I'm certain cost more than my last 3 grocery trips combined. Laughing, twirling, clinking glasses. I paused it, looked closer. Behind her was a table covered in promotional materials, flyers, stickers, a banner that said, "LT Wellness Retreats. Rewire your mind, recharge your soul." My stomach turned. She was running retreats now? I remembered those $500 monthly transfers to LT Designs, the photo shoots, the venues. It wasn't just about being a fake influencer. She was running a business built on my money. I went to the website, still active, still registered under her name, and there, under About Us, was the kicker. After struggling financially in my early 20s, I learned how to manifest abundance through self-trust and feminine alignment. Now I help other women do the same, struggling financially. That part was true. But she left out that her self-trust came with a monthly bank transfer from her mother, $27,000 worth of abundance, and I wasn't even worth a footnote. I felt rage crawl up my spine like ice. But I wasn't going to write some angry comment or send her a message. No, that's what she'd expect. Emotional chaos, drama. What I had in mind was quieter, sharper, and it started with a phone call to a woman named Kira. Kira was one of the few people from Anna's high school I still spoke to. She had been a fellow PTA mom. Her daughter Bree had once been Anna's best friend before they had some falling out over a boy I never met. Kira now worked in, of all things, event insurance. I called her, asked if we could meet for lunch. She showed up wearing scrubs, still as chatty as ever. I told her everything. Not in a vindictive way, just the facts. My daughter used my money to build a luxury wellness brand. She didn't pay rent for a year, lied about it, then told me I wasn't welcome in her home. And now she was hosting $2,200 a head retreats for women who didn't know who they were really dealing with. Kira didn't interrupt me once. She just nodded, then said quietly, "Funny, I know someone who worked one of those retreats. She said it was a disaster." My eyebrows lifted. Health code violations, underpaid staff, unlicensed massage people, bad food, you name it. Someone said there was even mold in the yoga mats. She sipped her iced tea. You know, if someone filed a formal complaint to the right board, it would probably trigger an inspection, maybe even a shutdown. I didn't respond. I just folded my napkin slowly and placed it next to my untouched plate. That night, I spent 3 hours reading every review I could find. The picture was clear. Overpriced, underdelivered, all sparkle and no substance. I made a spreadsheet. Names, dates, complaints, email addresses. Not for revenge, for accountability. Because if she wanted to brand herself as some self-made spiritual entrepreneur, then she needed to play by the rules of real businesswomen. Regulations, tax records, health and safety. And if she couldn't, then it wasn't my hands that would pull her down, it would be her own. A week later, I mailed a packet, anonymous, stamped, printed in clean font on thick cream paper, to County Office of Consumer Protection, Health Safety, subject, concerns regarding LT wellness retreats. Inside, my spreadsheet, screenshots. The shell company name, the payment trails, no lies, just facts. Cold, clinical, precise, like a scalpel. I didn't hear anything for a few weeks, but then, one afternoon while I was folding laundry, I got a message from Kira. Just a link. A Facebook post from a woman named Janelle D. She'd paid for a retreat with Anna. It had been canceled last minute due to unforeseen circumstances. No refund, no contact, no apology. Janelle had posted screenshots, and she tagged the county office in the comments, and under it, dozens of comments poured in. Same happened to me. Filed a claim with my bank. This girl is a scammer. The facade was cracking. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer, because this wasn't about gloating. It was about balance, justice, the kind of justice that doesn't slam a door. It opens one and lets the truth walk through. But just when I thought she'd hit rock bottom, she came crawling back to me. And what she asked for was worse than money. It was forgiveness. You can always tell when someone isn't really sorry. It's in the timing, the hesitation, the way their voice breaks, not because of guilt, but because the consequences finally landed. Her voice on the phone was small, the same girl I'd once held when she had nightmares about the dark. But this time, the fear in her voice wasn't about monsters under the bed. It was about losing everything she'd built on a lie. "Mom," she said, after 4 months of silence, "can we talk?" I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch, let her feel it, too, at cold, unfamiliar space where my warmth used to live. Then I said calmly, "Now you remember my number." She started crying, the kind of cry that would have broken me a year ago. But now, it just sounded practiced. "I messed up," she said. "I know I did. I wasn't thinking straight. I was just trying to get on my feet, and I thought I could fix it before you found out. Before I found out. Not before I hurt you. Not before I used you. No, she was only sorry that I caught her." "What exactly did you think I wouldn't find out?" I asked. She hesitated. "That I hadn't lived there in over a year. That I was using some of the money for other things. Other things like luxury retreats, like rewiring your soul while draining mine dry. Silence. Then she said it. The thing she'd never said once in the past 3 years. I'm sorry, Mom. I waited, because apologies mean nothing without accountability. So I asked her plainly, why are you really calling me? More silence. Then she exhaled, shaky. I think I'm going to get sued. There it was. Not guilt, not love, fear. She started talking fast, too fast. Like if she rushed through it, maybe I wouldn't hear the part where it was all still about her. She said someone filed a complaint, that bookings were being canceled, that people were demanding refunds she couldn't give, that she might have to shut it all down. And I don't know what to do. I said nothing. Then she asked it, the thing I never thought she'd have the nerve to say. Would you help me, just until I figure things out? I let out a bitter laugh. You want help? I said. After stealing from me, lying to me, blocking my number, and telling me I wasn't welcome in your home, now you want help? She started crying again. I didn't mean what I said that day, she sniffed. I was stressed, embarrassed. I didn't want people to see me as what? I interrupted. Someone with a mother? Someone who gave up her own future so you could play pretend CEO? Mom, please. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the leaves were starting to turn. Bright gold, deep red. The season was changing, and so was I. You know, I said, for years I thought being a mother meant unconditional support, that I had to carry you, even when you stomped on my back to get higher. But I realize now, love isn't about carrying someone who keeps choosing to walk away. She was quiet again. Then, in a whisper, So, you're really not going to help me? I closed my eyes, and I told her the truth. I already did. You just didn't notice when I stopped. She hung up after that. No goodbye. No thank you. Just the sound of a call ending. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Her handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a card that said, I know I failed you. I'll try to make it right someday. Love, Anna. There was no check, no plan, no visit, just words. And after all those years of paying, sacrificing, hoping, I realized that's all she ever really gave me. Words. But I didn't burn the letter. I didn't throw it away either. I tucked it in the back of a drawer with my old photo albums and the hospital bracelet from when she was born. Not because I forgive her. Not yet, maybe not ever. But because even now, with all the hurt, I haven't stopped being her mother. And maybe someday, when she's standing in a quiet kitchen with no lights on and no one left to call, she'll remember that. But just when I thought the story was over, I received one final email. And what she asked me in it changed everything I thought I knew about who she'd become. There's a silence that code. Mez after a storm. Not peace, not quite. More like a stillness, the kind that lets you hear the smallest things, the tick of a clock, the hum of the fridge, the ache in your own chest. After Anna's apology, if you could call it that, things went quiet. No texts, no calls, no random Venmo requests labeled like in the old days. I thought the story was done. I had finally drawn my line in the sand, and she, for once, respected it, or maybe she just accepted it. But stories like this, they don't end with silence, they end with a knock. It wasn't a knock on the door, exactly. It was a ping. My email, buzzing at 3:12 a.m., subject line, for what it's worth, no greeting. Just her name in the sender field. I opened it, unsure if it would be another guilt-drenched appeal for money or some performative apology wrapped in faux therapy lingo, but it was neither. It was one single paragraph. Hi, Mom. I don't expect you to respond, but I wanted you to know I'm leaving the city. I closed the retreat business, couldn't keep up with it, not just financially, but emotionally. You were right. I built it on lies. I'm taking a job as a receptionist in Milwaukee. Not glamorous, but honest. Starting over. I know I broke everything, but if there's ever a moment you feel like letting me back into your life, I'd like to see you again. Maybe not as your daughter, just as a woman trying to be better. For what it's worth, I miss you every day. Anna. I sat there in bed, the glow of the screen lighting up my face, trying to understand what I felt. Relief? Pity? Hope? I felt all of them, and none of them, because starting over didn't erase the damage. It didn't give me back my savings, or the pride I swallowed for years just to keep her life stitched together. But she hadn't asked for money this time. She hadn't asked for help. She hadn't even asked for forgiveness. She asked for something much harder, to be seen. I didn't write back. Not right away. I let the email sit for weeks, unopened again, marked unread. But I kept thinking about it. How hard it must have been for her to send. How many versions she rewrote before hitting send. And I kept remembering something a nurse once told me when Anna was just 3 days old, hooked up to a little heart monitor in the NICU. She said, sometimes the strongest babies look the weakest at first. They have to lose the fight to learn how to survive. So I wrote her back, just one line. Milwaukee gets cold in November. Bring a proper coat this time. Mom, that was 6 months ago. She didn't move back in. I wouldn't have allowed that. I still have my boundaries. But she visited. Once, then again, and again after that. Not every week. Not like a Hallmark movie. But enough. Enough to prove that something real might still live under all the rubble. She's different now. She talks less, listens more. She stopped wearing the influencer makeup, the lashes, the contour. Now she just wears clean jeans and chipped nail polish and shows up on time. She brought over a box of things she found while packing. Old photos, a broken watch her father used to wear, a letter I wrote her in high school, and a check. $1,000. The memo line read, "Start of repayment." I didn't cash it, not yet, but I left it on my fridge. It reminds me that change is possible, that healing isn't loud, it's slow, quiet, earned. I still remember the way she looked at me when I opened the door that first visit, nervous, like a child, like a stranger. But I let her in. Not because she deserved it, not because I forgot what she did, but because I remembered who I used to be. The woman who carried her in her arms, and again in her bank account. And now, for the first time, only in her heart,